Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Pokemon Pocket deck profile for you. Coming at you with another Darkrai deck. This time it's going to be Darkrai Greninja. For our build, we're on 2 of each of all of the following cards. 2 Froakie, 2 Frogadier, 2 Greninja, 2 Darkrai, 2 Druddigon, 2 Pokeball, 2 Pokemon Communication, 2 Professor's Research, 2 Leaf, and 2 Cyrus. So the thesis behind this deck is pretty simple, right? We're basically playing all of the different ways of dealing damage without actually using attacks with abilities between, not all of them, of course, not every single one, but all of the more relevant ones in the current meta. We've got the Greninja's Water Shuriken to deal 20 or to whatever. The Druddigon will deal 20 to whatever's attacking, and Darkrai is going to deal 20 to whatever the active Pokemon is. We're on Mono Dark Energy, no water, so we're not actually trying to attack with Greninja, just use the ability. And Greninja, despite being a Stage 2, I think is actually very worth it, because it's free damage from the bench even, and even if you don't get the Greninja online, Druddigon plus Darkrai is usually enough to get you there as well. So our first opponent is going to be on Palkia EX, which is of course one of the more popular tournament decks out there, and spoiler alert, this opponent is going to end up getting the setup pretty well here, and we're still going to be able to threaten them pretty well in spite of that. Darkrai Greninja is one of the decks with the highest win rate out there, and over time is becoming more and more popular, but was kind of slept on at first when the expansion first came out. But I think over time, yeah, people have started to recognize how good this particular build is. Also, you don't need Rocky Helmet to put on the Druddigon. I know that's like a big meme. Everyone's like, oh, we're in the Druddigon Rocky Helmet meta. Yeah, you don't actually need the Rocky Helmet. Because a lot of the time people don't even end up attacking the Druddigon anyway because of the inherent ability. So I'm honestly of the opinion that putting a Rocky Helmet on top of that is just overkill and a waste of a deck slot. I really, really like this current build that I've got here. Playing 2 of everything makes the deck very consistent. 2 Pokemon Communication on top of that also makes it very consistent. Pokemon Communication, I think, is, alongside Darkrai, one of the bigger breakout cards of the pack. Pokemon Communication is good in, like, just about literally any deck that plays a Stage 2 line, which is quite a few of them. And I've been enjoying it thoroughly in just about every deck I've played it in so far. Cyrus is especially good here, that's why we're on 2, because we have so many ways to deal damage to things, and especially the Greninja can just throw out a Water Shuriken onto something on the bench, and then you can Cyrus and just pull it in right away to potentially do more damage to it with Darkrai's ability, and maybe even attack as well. Yeah, so here I decided to use the Pokemon Communication to start looking for my Greninja line, putting back my extra Druddigon. We do find the Greninja, just waiting for the Frogadier. I'm going to use one of my Cyruses to bring in my opponent's damaged Palkia here, because they used a Leaf last turn to retreat it. So if I can get them to waste some of their energy, I would definitely like that. Like if I force them to use their energy attached for turn to put another energy on the active Palkia and then swap it out for the Manaphy, that'd be pretty good for me. But, as we're going to see here in a second, whenever the opponent makes this move, yeah, unfortunately for me, they just have another Leaf, so they get to just retreat their Palkia out for free. So, kind of wasted my Cyrus. I basically traded my Cyrus for their Leaf. They get to bring the Manaphy back in and keep using the Oceanic Gift. And, I mean, things are getting scary at this point. They're also throwing down a Staryu, meaning Starmie is a real threat. And more than that, now their Palkias have 2 and 3 energy on them respectively, meaning they're both pretty well set up to start using the Dimensional Storm attack. Drawing another Froakie for turn here. That's actually not bad. I'm definitely going to play that Froakie, and then fighting the Frogadier is very, very good too. And yeah, I'm just going to keep putting energy on Darkrai for the time being. It's got 3 on it now, so its Dark Prism attack is ready to go, but of course I'm not going to swap in Darkrai just yet. 1, we can't. Druddigon's retreat cost is 2, and 2, naturally, it would just get KO'd by the Dimensional Storm. Yeah, looks like they've got that Starmie EX as well. And I think they're just going to attack with Manaphy yet again here. No, they're going for the Misty. That's right. Okay. And Misty... Okay, Misty does not land any heads. I thought it landed at least one. No, okay. They use the Oceanic Gift, and that's going to put both Palkias at 4 energy apiece. So Dimensional Storm is very inevitable. But, you know, in spite of that, I'm actually in a really good position here, because think about it, right? If they Dimensional Storm my Druddigon, that's fine. Also, between the Darkrai and the Greninja here, I can get the Manaphy down to 10 HP, as well as the Palkia down to 90, which will be enough to, on a follow-up turn, use Water Shuriken to KO Manaphy, Cyrus to pull in the damaged Palkia, attach an energy to Darkrai on that turn, it'll knock it down from 90 to 70, and then Dark Prism will KO it for lethal. So yeah, this looks really bad, right? You see Palkias each having 4 water energy, and you're like, oh Hex, you're just gonna lose. But again, if you look at my hand and just the overall board state, I'm actually about to win, which is insane. It's insane how good the Druddigon Darkrai shell is, right? Like, there's so many games like this where it kind of just doesn't matter what your opponent's doing. You just have this inevitability by snowballing all this chip damage over all these turns. Here my opponent's going to use Sabrina, but it's a good thing we played that Froakie, because I can just bring that in now. It doesn't really matter if the Froakie gets KO'd by Dimensional Storm, much like the Druddigon. I think my opponent's kind of realizing that too, is they're like, do I really want to Dimensional Storm this little Froakie? Alright, I'm just going to use Slash. And our opponent's actually out of cards in hand, meaning the game state is just pretty locked into a very favorable one for me here. So, what I end up doing here is we're going to Water Shuriken, probably just KO the Manaphy at this point and take our point. Yeah. Water Shuriken the Manaphy, take our point. And then, honestly, at this stage, I can just attach a Dark Energy to Froakie and then retreat it into the Druddigon. Basically kind of forcing my opponent to use Dimensional Storm at that point. I mean, even if they didn't use Dimensional Storm, let's say I left a Froakie and they just used another Slash, that's fine. We just swap in the Darkrai and then Cyrus on the next turn. I didn't even really have to do that, but it was kind of funny getting my opponent to waste some of their energy there. Yeah, so Dimensional Storm does take out the Druddigon, but yeah, now we just bring in the Darkrai, and like I said, we can just we can Cyrus that Palkia for game here. Yeah, it's wild to me. You would not expect a game like this to go in your favor, but again, at no point did I really even truly feel like it was out of our favor. Alright, Darkrai's ability, followed by the Dark Prism. Bada bing, bada boom, there goes their Palkia, and then we take the battle with the last 2 points there. So good. Yeah, and the crazy thing too is, again, that the Greninja isn't even attacking here. I think if the Greninja had the ability to attack as well, this deck would be, like, insanely OP. But of course, I'm not really trying to alternate between Dark and Water Energy. No, I think the being on just Dark Energy is what makes the Darkrai so good. And I don't think it's worth it to play Misty just to hope to get a Water Energy on Greninja. I briefly considered that, but again, our build is just so tight, it's so good, I don't want to change anything about it. Alright, our next opponent is going to be on a Greninja deck of their own. I wasn't too sure if it was Darkrai, because we didn't end up seeing one, but not a bad opening hand from us here. Druddigon, Froakie, Frogadier, Professor's Research is pretty good 4 cards to have. The 5th card being a second Druddigon is kind of whatever, but also it's not bad either. I'll keep it in hand, just in case I have Pokemon Communication. There's not that many people playing Mars or Red card, so when it comes to like extra Druddigons or like even sometimes in some situations extra Froakies, sometimes I'll keep those in hand just to potentially send away for a Pokemon Communication. Alright, so they led with Froakie, and it looks like drew the Druddigon for a turn, as they're now forced to play it in the bench. Well, you know, I'm looking at their energy, and they're on water, so I think they are actually just on a straight-up Greninja deck, as opposed to being on a Darkrai deck like I am. Greninja's such a good card. I think Greninja has been, like, over the course of the entirety of Pokemon Pocket's lifespan, probably the most consistently, what's the word I'm looking for? Undervalued? No, there's another better word for it. Slept on, I guess is the phrase I'm looking for. Like, I know that people know Greninja is good, but, like, Greninja never sees as much play as I think it should. Like, I think Greninja decks tend to be, like, if not the best, like, one of the top 3 decks of any given meta that we've had so far. And a lot of people don't really see it that way, but... Alright, so they're going to swap their Froakie out and put the Druddigon in the active slot. So both my opponent and I are in a somewhat similar position, although I have my Darkrai, which means that I'm able to threaten just so much more consistently here, right? And I think that's why the Darkrai Greninja deck is just straight up better than a regular Greninja deck right now. Alright, looks like they still don't have a Frogadier yet, which works out for me. Yeah, they're just going to attach an energy to Froakie and pass. So now I'm at a point where I think it's time to start being a little more proactive. Now that my Darkrai is up to 3 energy, I'm going to start just KOing my opponent's Pokemon, starting with this Druddigon. You might think, well, Hex, you know, is it really worth doing that? Because you're going to take damage off the ability, and now your Darkrai is vulnerable. But it's just 20 damage, and here's the thing, too. My opponent at this point only has 2 Froakies in play. They don't have anything threatening on the bench. Like, they can't even go into Greninja yet, let alone... I mean, they might throw down, like, an Articuno, sure. But even then, they'll have to retreat out the Froakie to be able to put it into play. And something like Articuno also will take multiple turns of energy, I guess barring a Misty, to get going. So, yeah, I'm totally fine just, like, taking out this Druddigon here. Looks like our opponent's going to follow up with a second Druddigon, activating Professor's Research to draw a couple of cards here. I feel bad for my opponent. I feel like they've drawn a fair bit and are just not getting anything. Yeah, they're just going to retreat into the second Druddigon, reattach the energy to Froakie before passing back over to me. And yeah, I mean, this is another thing that's great about Darkrai, is that it can one-shot Druddigons. So I'll just play the second Darkrai from hand, attach a Dark Energy to that, use that Darkrai's Nightmare Aura. But like, even if I didn't have the second Darkrai in hand, that's so fine. We just attach a 4th energy to our current active Darkrai, and then one-shot it anyway. That's the other thing that's really cool about this deck, is that you don't really miss out by, like, even if you're attaching excess energy to a Darkrai that's already got 3, that's fine. It's not like Dark Energy is going to do anything on Greninja or Druddigon except help them retreat anyway, and we're playing 2 Leaf to help with those anyway, so it's fine. Yeah, they're forced to put out another Froakie. At this point, it's just over. Even if they evolve into a Frogadier, that's got 80 HP, so we can just one-shot it with Dark Prism anyway. And our opponent, recognizing that, is going to end up conceding here. Got another dub there, another win. Going into one final game against this last opponent, as soon as we thank Jerry Zomb here. And this last opponent's going to be on Exeggutor. Oh, I accidentally put Exeggutor EX. I guess maybe they could be playing that. But they actually played Mythical Island Exeggutor, and they have Snivy as well, so I think that's more of the strategy they're going for. But, oh well, it's not that big of a deal. Alright, opening with Druddigon, Professor's Research, Leaf, Frogadier, Communication. That's like a slightly... I'd say that's a slightly below average opening hand. But Professor's Research, Pokemon Communication, we should still be fine, ideally. Yep, there's a Froakie, so that's pretty good. Gonna lead by putting that into the bench, then we can go Professor's Research, or we could do it the Research first, either way, really. Draw Greninja Cyrus, so that's pretty good. Normally... Well, actually, it's turn 1, so we're fine anyway. I was going to say, normally I'd like to Communication for Darkrai to try to start putting Dark Energy on it right away, but I can't attach an energy for turn, so I don't need to use Pokemon Communication right now. Plus, I've got Frogadier and Greninja in hand, so I really would like to keep my whole evolution line intact. We're going to top deck Pokeball, that's going to find us a Froakie. This I'm fine using Pokemon Communication on Froakie to try to look for Darkrai here. We have pretty decent odds of finding it. And sure enough, we do manage to find a Darkrai. Again, I Love Pokemon communication. The card is so good, especially in a deck like this. Yeah, it's really good in decks with Stage 2s in particular, because not only can you use communication to find your Stage 2 line, but if you have extra copies of your Stage 1 or 2 cards in your hand, you can just send those away. Now here it was an extra basic, but the principle still stands. Yeah, so we need to attach an energy for turn. Here they're going to Sabrina, and I kind of thought about this for a moment of what I wanted to put in. I guess now that I think about it, it doesn't really matter, because I'm just going to leaf it out anyway, but I decided to put in the Frogadier. I'd rather have that take a little bit of chip damage as opposed to my Darkrai, because my Darkrai might need to come in later and be my main attacker to finish off with. Alright, so here, it doesn't really matter what order I do things in. Either way, I'm going to end up KOing the Snivy, evolving my Frogadier into Greninja, then leafing my Greninja out so I can put Druddigon back into the main slot. Although, I think I could have left the Greninja out, honestly. Well, no, I don't know. I was just a little bit afraid of, oh, but Greninja's weak to lightning, not grass. I was a little bit afraid of Tropical Swing here, but that wouldn't be able to one-shot Greninja. I should have just left it in. Because the thing is, my Darkrai is going to be able to start attacking next turn. So, I'm going to need another Leaf if I want to swap out my Druddigon for the Darkrai. Alright, so they're going to draw for turn. And yeah, here's the evolution. And as you can see, that's Mythical Island Exeggutor, not Exeggutor EX. Now, thankfully, I'm just the luckiest, best player in the world. I just top decked the Leaf anyway, but yeah, in hindsight, I should just left my Greninja in. Even if I suspected my opponent had Exeggutor EX and they landed the coin flip on Tropical Swing, we would still survive with 20 HP, so it would have been fine. But yeah, now I'm going to use Leaf to swap out the Druddigon for Darkrai. And Dark Prism won't be enough to KO the Exeggutor outright, but even if they do manage to retreat it out on the follow-up turn, I can still just use Water Shuriken to finish it off in the bench. Alright, looks like they found a Pokeball, so they finally have another Pokemon here. But they just concede, because it looks like our win is pretty inevitable. And there we have it. That is going to do it for this deck profile. So thank you all so very much for watching. I will be continuing to post even more deck profiles as time goes on. So make sure to subscribe if you want to check out some more. Really appreciate you. That's going to do it for now. This is Hex signing out. Hoping you have a fantastic day.